Okay. So very good morning, one and all. I'm Rupali Jinturkar. I'm going to discuss today about the first topic, that is anti-infective agents, out of which today we are going to learn local anti-infective agents. So local anti-infective agents, the history, if we see the history of these agents, they are traced back in 19th century, in 1867, by Joseph Lister. What he did is, he used the antiseptic that he used was phenol in surgery, because at that time when the surgeries were used to be conducted by the doctors, after surgery the presence of microorganisms used to cause the infections at the surgical sites, and he just thought that he might use some antiseptic to reduce that post surgical infection. So he used carbolic acid, that is phenol, and from that incidence the use of these anti-infective agents has started. The most important means of preventing transmission of infectious agents from person to person or from regions of high microbial load like mouth, nose, or gut to potential sites of infection is simply washing the hands. That we are now seeing that this corona pandemic, what is the most possible way of reducing the infection transmission is simply washing the hands again and again, so that the most found result is it is going to reduce, or it is going to clean your hands with the that is being infected by the viruses or bacteria. So that is the history we can say about the local anti-infective agents. Now these are few definitions that you all know. In general, when we talk about such antiseptics or such anti-infective agents, we just get confused that which one is antiseptic, which is disinfectant, whether Dettol is antiseptic or disinfectant. So basically we should understand what are their basic definitions. So we'll start one by one. That is antiseptic: application of an agent to living tissue for the purpose of preventing infection. So here the most important word is living tissues. The chemical we are going to apply on living tissues is called as antiseptic. So now you can understand Dettol that you are using is antiseptic. Decontamination is destruction or marked reduction in the number or activity of microorganisms. So this is called as decontamination. Then disinfection is chemical or physical treatment that destroys most vegetative microbes or viruses, but not spores of microorganisms in or on inanimate surface. This is again very much important word, inanimate, that is non-living surfaces. So disinfectant is different than antiseptics. Their properties of a particular chemical to be used as antiseptic or disinfectant, that is dependent on where they are being getting applied. So that is the basic difference. Then next definition is sanitization. So most of you all might be using sanitizer these days. What is sanitization means? It is reduction of microbial load on an inanimate surface to a level considered acceptable for public health purpose. So again, here to reduce the microbial load, here it is not, you cannot confidently say that sanitizer is going to completely remove the virus. It is going to reduce the microbial load or reduce the viral load on the inanimate surface. So sanitization is to be done on inanimate surfaces, whereas your hands should be cleaned by using only soaps or detergents. So that is sanitization. Next is sterilization. Sterilization is a process that intended to kill or remove all types of microbes, that includes the spores as well, and usually including viruses with acceptably low probability of survival. So again, sterilization includes both microbes and viruses as well. Pasteurization is the next technique. This is a process that kills non sporulating microbes by hot water or steam at the temperature of 65 degrees to 100 degrees Celsius. So, these are the important definitions. So first is antiseptic, application of an agent to living tissue for the purpose of preventing infection that kills. Kills means microbicidal, or prevent the growth, that is static microorganisms. So here the compounds that are used as antiseptics are categorized into two types, microcidal or microstatic. Microbicidal means, or bactericidal means, it is going to kill that bacteria, and bacteriostatic stands for it is not going to completely kill the microbes, but it will reduce the further growth of that microorganisms. So that is the basic difference between bactericidal and bacteriostatic. Now here are some ideal characteristics of antiseptic. First is they should have low enough toxicity, because as we are going to directly use them on the skin or wound. They should have low surface tension. If they are having low surface tension, they will be easily get spread into the wound. Otherwise, they will get accumulated at one point only. Then they should retain activity in the presence of body fluids. Like if pus is there and you are using the antiseptic on that wound where pus is there, still your antiseptic should work. If pus is there or some other body fluids are there, then it might not happen that your compound is losing its activity. Then it should be obviously non-irritating to tissues. When you apply on the wounds, it should not cause any kind of irritation. It should be non-allergic. It should not cause any allergy after application. It should lack the systemic toxicity. Systemic toxicity and local toxicity are two terms. Local means as you are applying it on the wound, locally it is giving the antiseptic action. But if you are applying to the skin, it should not get completely absorbed, or if it is getting completely absorbed in the systemic in it means in the blood. So it should not it should not show any kind of toxicity in the blood after getting absorbed in the blood. So that is the basic requirement. And it should not interfere with the natural healing process. In fact, it should help the healing process. Here are some examples of topically used antiseptics: bacitracin, polymyxin, neomycin, etc. Next is disinfectant. This is the agent that prevent the transmission of infection by destruction of pathogenic microbes when applied to inanimate objects. Again, here more important is inanimate, that is non-living things. The ideal properties are exert a rapid lethal action, that is it should immediately kill the pathogenic microbes and spores. It should have a good penetrating properties if applied on the organic matter. It should share the compatibility with organic compounds. Like if you are using simultaneously soap with the disinfectant, that it should not cause any kind of reaction with the soaps. Then it should not inactivated by living tissues. Then it should be non-corrosive. It should be aesthetically pleasing, that is it should be non-staining, and it should be odorless. So these are the properties of disinfectant. Next is okay. Next, this is the common sterilants that are used. Now you must be listening right now that for the COVID virus, it is expected to use a sterilizer or sanitizer that is alcohol based. Now why it is saying that it should be alcohol based? Alcohol based means whatever the sanitizer you are using, that should contain alcohol in it. Now here are some list of sterilants, that is the chemicals that are used. See, alcohols, aldehydes, chlorhexidine gluconate, sodium hypochlorite, hexachlorophene, povidone and iodine combination, phenols, and oxidizing agents. Oxidizing agents like peroxides. So this is the list of sterilants, and here how they are going to affect the bacteria, viruses, and others, like amoebic infections or fungi infections. So here the triple positive sign indicates they are very much useful for gram positive bacterial infection. So alcohol is going to kill the gram positive and gram negative bacteria very fast, but they will be having lower potency towards acid fast bacteria. So here single plus sign means low potency, 2 plus sign means middle potency, and 3 plus sign stands for very high potency against that bactericidal action. Here again the plus sign and negative sign is there. Negative sign means it is not useful, plus sign means it is useful up to some extent. So here these are the chart, that this is just for general information, that what are the chemicals that are used for bactericidal and killing the viruses and other fungi, amoebas, etc. So this is a list. Now here we are moving forward to more specific local anti-infective agents. I have classified these. This classification or no, neither examples have been given in your syllabus. So I want you to understand clearly that whatever the most important part is there in that syllabus, I have taken from the book. You will not get such kind of classification anywhere in the book. So just try to concentrate here, that whatever been uh, finalized or idealized, I have found on the textbook, I have used it. So this is the classification of local anti-infective agents. First is alcohol and related compounds. Examples are ethanol, isopropanol, ethylene oxide. Second is aldehydes, formaldehyde, glutaraldehyde. Phenols and derivatives, phenol and cresol. Oxidizing agents like benzoyl peroxide. Halogen containing compounds are iodine and chlorine containing compounds. Cationic surfaces, example is benzalkonium chloride. Dyes, example is gentian violet. And mercury containing compounds, example is nitromercel. So these are 8 classes of local anti-infective agents you should memorize. Now talking about the exams, the most probable question that is asked in the examination is write short note on local anti-infective agents, or they may ask you define anti-infective agents and classify with example. Most commonly the second type of question is asked. There you have to define what is anti-infective agent, and this classification you are supposed to write. When they are asking you to write with example, that means every time you have to write the class, write its mechanism of action, write example, and draw the structure of that example. That is most important. If you forget the structure, definitely your marks are going to reduce. This is very sure. See, this is a medichem subject. You are not supposed to write it completely theoretical like in ecology. So here you are, it is mandatory for you to write these structures. So we'll see one by one. Now as this is a first topic, this is a very simple topic and the structures are very easy to memorize, but later on the difficulty level will increase. So let us understand one by one. First is alcohols and related compounds. Their mechanism is denaturation of important proteins and carbohydrates. This is the basic mechanism of alcohols. Now you all must are using the alcohol containing sanitizers to clean the surfaces. The basic mechanism how they are going to act is they are going to enter into the cell of that microorganism, and thereby they are going to denature the proteins and carbohydrates. And once the protein structure is denatured means their primary and secondary structure will, sorry, secondary and tertiary structure will get disturbed of the proteins. And proteins, the importance of proteins is only because of their structure. If their structure is disturbed, their activity will be lost, and these microbes are completely dependent on the proteins. Their basic important living need is presence of proteins. So if you destroy the proteins of microorganisms, then immediately they are going to die. So this is the basic reaction or mechanism of every antibacterial agent, or most probable antibacterial agents. So this is the first alcohol. The most commonly used alcohol is ethanol. It is bactericidal in the concentration range of 50% to 95% of ethanol. So what do you mean by 50% of ethanol? If you are taking 100 ml of 50% ethanol, that 100 ml will contain 50 ml of pure ethanol and 50 ml of water. So this is diluted using water. Concentration below 60% is effective, but you have to keep in contact with that surface for longer duration. Concentration above 70% of alcohol can be safely used for post operative sterilization on the skin. As water solubility decreases, the apparent antimicrobial, sorry, just one sec, Anna. Okay, so we were at alcohols. Then, as the water solubility decreases, the apparent antimicrobial potency gets decreases. Here, the most important thing is, when we talk about alcohols, their water solubility will decrease if their molecular weight will increase and the branching will increase. So, number of carbon atoms, if they are more than 8 carbons, then their molecular weight will be more than expected as antibacterial. So their molecular weight is increased, the branching is increased in the structure of that alcohol, their antibacterial potency will decrease. Then second is ethylene oxide. Here you can see the structure of ethylene oxide that is used to sterilize the medical equipment which are very much sensitive to temperature, and certain pharmaceuticals that cannot be heated or that cannot be sterilized in autoclave. So that is the basic use of ethylene oxide. This question can be asked in MCQ pattern, like ethylene oxide is used for, this question can be asked. So answer is, it is used to sterilize the medical equipment and pharmaceuticals that cannot be sterilized at higher heat or in an autoclave. That is the answer. Next is aldehyde. Most commonly used is formalin. Formalin means the aqueous solution of formaldehyde having the concentration not less than 37% of formaldehyde. This is again having the germicidal action. Mechanism is believed to involve direct non-specific alkylation of nucleophilic functional groups in proteins and nucleic acid. So as I have already told you that alcohols are going to act on proteins and carbohydrates, whereas aldehydes are going to uh, uh, having alkylation of proteins and nucleic acid. So their structure will be disturbed, and that is going to be lethal action for microorganisms. This is glutaraldehyde structure. It is used for sterilization of equipment and instruments that cannot be autoclaved. Third is phenols and derivatives. You might be knowing that whatever the disinfectants are there, they are mostly composed of phenols. So what is their basic mechanism of action is denaturation of bacterial protein at low concentration. So if you use the phenol at a lower concentration, it is going to attack on the proteins, that is bacterial proteins. But if you use at higher concentration, they are going to attack on the bacterial cell membrane. So two activities are associated with phenol depending on at what concentration you are using it. Several phenols are more bactericidal than phenol itself. Several phenol stands for phenol is one category that is having different compounds. One of those is phenol, other is cresol, other is resorcinol. So these are few examples under the category of phenol. Then substitution of alkyl, aryl and halogen at para position increases the bactericidal activity. These are a few examples. Liquefied phenol, 10% phenol, that is 10% of phenol in water. Parachlorophenol, you can see the structure, and parachlorometaxylenol. This is a broad spectrum antibacterial antifungal agent. So these are a few examples under phenol category. These are the cresols. Next is oxidizing agents. Oxidizing agents, they are going to oxidize the proteins. So they are going to liberate the oxygen once they enter into the tissues by direct oxidation reaction with the proteins. So thereby, by oxidizing the protein structure, they are going to disturb their structure, that we call it as denaturation of proteins. And hence, if the proteins will get oxidized, structure will get collapsed, and that will lead to death of that microorganism. This is the structure of benzoyl peroxide, the most commonly used oxidizing agent at the concentration of 5% to 10%. It is used for locally for the treatment of acne. Next is halogen containing compounds. Now here two basic halides are used, that is iodine and chlorine. Iodine is probably the oldest germicide. Still, it is being used after surgeries and during surgeries as well. The official three preparations are there for iodine. That is 2% iodine in 50% alcohol with sodium iodide. This is called as iodine tincture. Lugol's solution is 5% iodine in water with potassium iodide, that is strong iodine solution, and 2% iodine in water with sodium iodide is iodine solution. So these three are the most probable questions asked for during MCQs, that is what is the concentration of iodine tincture. So you should know what is the composition of Lugol's solution. So you should know this. It probably acts to inactivate the proteins by iodination of aromatic residues, that is aromatic amino acids which are present in the proteins, and they may cause oxidation of sulfhydryl groups of sulfur containing amino acids. So here this is very much important point. The basic mechanism of halogen containing anti-infective agent is they are going to either they are going to halogenate the aromatic amino acids or sulfur containing amino acids. So they are going to carry out the iodination of aromatic amino acids, example phenylalanine tyrosine, and they are going to oxidize the sulfur containing amino acids. These active complexes of iodine with surfactant is called as iodophore. Again, this is MCQ question, that is combination of iodine with surface active agents is called as iodophore, and it is having both bactericidal and fungicidal action. Betadine, you might have listened this a lot of times. Betadine is it should be rather always present at your home. This is a povidone iodine combination. This is iodine complex with non-ionic surfactant, that is PVP, polyvinyl pyrrolidine. So betadine should be always present. This is used, this aqueous solution is mostly used in pre-surgical disinfection at the incision site where surgery is actually getting conducted. It is used to be treatment in the infected wounds and damage to the skin. effective for local bacterial and fungal infection. So this is the structure of PVP, and this is iodine molecule attached to it. So it is a complex of iodine plus this is a surfactant, that is polyvinyl pyrrolidine. Then talking about the chlorine containing compounds, example is hypochlorous acid. It is active germicidal compound. The two mechanisms expected of this hypochlorous acid is chlorination of amide nitrogen atoms and oxidation of sulfhydryl groups in proteins. So this is going to act by two mechanisms. Example is halazone. The structure of halazone is quite bigger, so I'm not expecting you to memorize it, just remember the name. Next is cationic surfactants. All of the cationic surfactants are quaternary ammonium compounds. Mechanism is dissolution of surfactant into microbial cell membrane. If they attack on the microbial cell membrane, the structure of cell membrane will be disturbed and destabilized, and that will lead to the breakage of that cell membrane, and finally there will be lysis. So this is the basic mechanism of surface active agent. Example is benzalkonium chloride. Uh, this is the structure of benzalkonium chloride, you should memorize. Next is dyes, organic dyes like methylene blue, gentian violet. You must have heard these names. These are bacteriostatic in nature. This is the structure of gentian violet. 1 to 3% solution is used for the treatment of infections. Next is mercury compounds or mercurials, they are called as. The most commonly used mercury compounds are mercury chloride, mercurous chloride, that is called as calomel, Hg2Cl2, and ammoniated mercury. Their mechanism of action is they are going to form their reaction with sulfhydryl groups of sulfur containing amino acids present in the proteins, and they will form the covalent bond with the two sulfhydryl groups near to each other in the protein structure, and thereby they will disturb the protein structure, and that will lead to death of that microorganism. So this is the basic mechanism of mercury containing compounds. Okay, so here I've completed all the classes. This is a brief summary of class and its mechanism of action. So you should, I have prepared this chart so that it will be very easy for you to memorize at the last moment in the exam. That is, what is the action of alcohol, aldehyde. Although most of them are attacking on the proteins, but still there is a little change, like some are acting on the microbial membrane, some are specifically acting on the sulfhydryl group. So it will be very easy for you if you memorize this table. So I hope you understood all the classes and their mechanism of actions in details. Okay, so thank you so much, and we'll discuss about it later. Thank you.